Oh, goody.
Alright, what's up everybody? Zombies here again, and today back with another Mercenaries video. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, since this was the biggest mercs drop we ever got, and we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast in the past. I figured it would make sense to do kind of a top 5 mercenaries of the new bunch that have kind of been PvP standouts so far. So it hasn't been too much time since the drop, but due to the tasks being a little bit easier to complete now, both with the task change and just the tasks themselves being a little bit more simplified and not taking as long, a lot of people, myself included, have gotten a whole bunch of the characters leveled up and have been trying them out in PvP. So it's far too early to say, what's going to be the best meta deck or any of that kind of stuff, but there definitely are some characters that are standing out right now as some of what I think are the best characters of the bunch. So we're going to take a look at those. That's kind of what we're doing today. This is going to be focused around PvP usage. If people like this kind of thing, I might do one for PvE as well, but I haven't had nearly as much time to test a lot of these characters in PvE compared to the time I've had with them in PvP so far. So I figured we would do a PvP version of this first. But yeah, so we got, I think, 18 total new mercenaries. So we're going to be looking at the 5 that I think have had the biggest impact on PvP so far. Now, before we get into it, if you enjoy this content, do remember to like and subscribe. It does a ton to help out the channel and it keeps the mercenaries videos coming. So we're going to start off actually with an honorable mention, and I'm not going to be listing these 5 in any particular order. It's, like I said, a little bit too early to see, who is the absolute best, who's the worst, all that kind of stuff. But these are just the 5 that I think have had the best performance and look like they're going to be strong characters in the emerging meta. So, honorable mention, definitely going to Maestra here. So, the thing is, and probably why you haven't seen any of her in PvP is, and that's why she's an honorable mention and not one of the actual top 5, is because unfortunately this really cool skill here, Imprison, does not currently work correctly in PvP. Works fine in PvE, and it actually works fine if you use it on your own character in PvP, funnily enough. But if you use it on an enemy in PvP, the second part of the ability here, the abilities getting cooldown equal to the number of their benched mercs, just doesn't work. They just do not, the enemy does not get that cooldown. So that is a pretty big downside, and I think it's a huge reason why this character is not seeing more play. I think I've seen it in PvP maybe once, and it was definitely one of the characters I was more high on pre-launch, and I don't think it's really like a bad character or anything. It's just not seeing play because one of its coolest abilities does not work correctly. And I believe it has been confirmed this is going to be fixed in the next major patch we're going to be getting for Hearthstone. So hopefully that won't take too long to get out. But I did want to include her in the honorable mention because once this does get fixed, I do think she is going to see significantly more play. And you could honestly apply kind of the same thing to Bane as well, because Bane just got fixed. So this is another character I thought looked really strong, but we didn't really see any of because he was just really bugged. He got fixed in the hot fixed. Unfortunately, Maiev is still bugged. So for the time being, you're probably not going to see too much of her until the next major patch. But once we get that, definitely expect to see a lot more of her. So it might not be a bad idea to get her ready in the meantime. So taking her out of the equation, we're going to look at the top 5 here. Going to start with our only fighter of the bunch, and that is Elise, Starseeker. Elise is just amazing. I mean, we talked about this in our kind of character review on the podcast, but Elise is an awesome character, incredibly powerful, just has some very, very good abilities. The best, though, by far, and the reason I think she has seen play so much so far, has been the Golden Monkey. I've seen comps that their whole goal is to kind of turbo out the Golden Monkey and then kill you quickly with a big AoE, which is pretty cool. But the reason Elise sees so much play outside of that is because the first part of Quest for the Golden Monkey just gives huge stat bonuses to herself, your team, and your bench at 3 speed on turn 1. And it's pretty insane. I mean, you can kind of ignore the rest of the abilities, and even then those abilities are good, and I would play her just for that alone. It is that powerful of an ability. So that is like the biggest thing with Elise. Like, she's just a very, very good character, and because of that ability being so powerful, she just goes in a ton of different comps as long as they care about attacking. And right now there are a lot of comps that care about attacking. So I really like Elise. I think she is one of the best designed mercs of the most recent release, and I think we're going to see a lot of play from her in the future, as well as, I mean, I've already seen her. I think she's the merc I've seen in the most comps since the patches hit, since people have started playing PvP. She's just in a ton of different stuff, and I really like that. I think she's a cool character, and she's just a lot of fun to use. Worth noting, I do think her best ability here, Talon Trinkets, she gets really big too when you scale her up with the Golden Monkey, and then you scale her up with her ability 1. She really just fits in so many different builds. You can go for that kind of nature combo stuff if you want, but she doesn't feel like pigeonholed into being stuck into a nature build, which is great. So we're going to be seeing a lot of Elise, I think, for quite some time to come. Still remains to be seen, though, if we will see an Explorer's build, but I think part of that has to do with the fact that Bran has had some bugs, so I think that has been getting away in a little bit, like, just because they don't work to their full potential. And yeah, so that's Elise. Really great. Highly recommend using her, getting her leveled up, as I think she can just work in a ton of different comps. Moving on, our first pirate of the bunch, we have Patches. I really underestimated Patches, to be honest. Patches is insane. Patches is, I think, one of, if not the best character from the drop in terms of just like a good offensive attacker. And he just fills a role that pirates were very sorely lacking. Pirates really needed a good blue that had good synergy with the rest of kind of the pirate squad, and now they have it. Patches has great stats for a attacking unit, good HP, pretty high attack, but the real thing that has made Patches see so much play and success, in my opinion, has been Arms Locker. Arms Locker has been really, really good. The fact that it applies to himself, his summons, and your other pirates just makes like absolutely huge units that a lot of times your opponent will have a hard time dealing with, especially if they are a attacking focus comp that has to worry about residual damage. And then the other thing that I think has made Patches really, really good is the fact that now there is a way to combo with Mr. Smite using iCaptain, and you can speed them both up with Edwin, so they're a lot more reasonable in speed. This one goes up to 5 speed, and you can actually get Mr. Smite's ability off at 0 speed with Edwin. So it kind of fixes the problem Mr. Smite had, where he was kind of a meme combo, and now with Patches, he's no longer a meme. Like, you can get the combo off pretty consistently, and even more importantly, even if you don't get the combo off, you still end up just doing a lot of damage because there's just good synergy between Patches and Mr. Smite and Edwin and the other pirates. So really recommend leveling up Patches if you're looking to try out the pirate comp, whether that's a full pirate team or like the one I featured that had the bench pirates that get really big using Elise and Tyrion and whatnot to make a really big bench. Highly recommend leveling Patches. He is just a really, really great unit, and I think he is a huge reason why we will see many more pirate comps in the developing meta. Next up, we have our first Pandarian, Lorewalker Cho. So I'll be honest, I kind of slept on Cho a little bit. You know, there were so many mercenaries to read and get through. I don't think I fully took the time to analyze just how good this character could be. And I've really, really liked him as a way of shutting down attacking comps on turn 1. Much like Patches, an item is a big reason why he is seeing a lot of play right now, and I think it's going to remain that way as long as Trigore is a very significant part of the meta, and that is the Cho family heirloom, reducing all characters' attack by 20 this turn. And it's pretty sweet because it gives that flat minus 20, so even if they have less than 20 attack and they gain some attack, if the total is still less than 20, it's still 0. So that's really big. The fact that you can just turn off attack for the first turn or whenever you swap in Cho has been crazy. It's just a very, very strong way of shutting down an attacking focused strategy, and we really haven't had a way of doing that before. Like before, it was really just taunt, kind of, and maybe some damage resist like Cornelius, but there just wasn't really a good way to reduce damage from attackers. And it may only be for one turn, but as we know, Mercenaries in PvP is pretty fast-paced, and one turn can change the whole outcome of a game. So that is a big reason why Cho has been so popular. Mostly, in my experience, I've seen Cho has been used as a lead, but he could also be an interesting bench inclusion to get that battle cry kind of in the mid game or the late game. But so far, he's definitely been very popular as a lead, and I've really enjoyed using him. I do think there's some potential to Heart of Neutrality as well, but I think the other equipment is a bit better for how the meta has been developing so far, because there are a ton of attacking bonus focused units, but his other abilities are also playing a part in why he's been pretty good. Wisdom is really, really powerful. Just a flat +5 damage increase, especially when you can combo it at a low speed with something like Vol'jin's AoE, is really, really strong. Cho really feels like one of the most support focused mercs we've ever gotten. He kind of reminds me of Cornelius a lot in that way, where I feel like when people are playing Cornelius in PvP, it's purely for that healing and that taunt, just acting that support role. And I feel like we finally have a good kind of unit that does something similar in Cho now, but obviously different stuff that we haven't had before. And then Patience has also been rather good as well. This might be a little bit build dependent, but +5, +10 is a lot of stats, and I've really liked another build I featured recently from King Joffrey and Frankie that it uses this buff on the Kazakus golems and some of your other units that are going a little bit slower, and it's just pretty good. The fact that this has no cooldown makes it way, way better. If you couldn't do this on one, I think this ability would be a lot worse, but because of no cooldown, I think it's really good, and it fits his kit pretty well. The summons, I think, are probably the most underwhelming part about Cho, and I think one of them is actually bugged right now, so it's actually a little bit smaller than it's supposed to be when it spawns in. I believe that's getting fixed soon too, but it's fine to have. I'm sure there are fringe case scenarios where the summons can actually do some work, but so far from what I've seen, you're really playing Cho for that attack reduction and some stat buffs or damage buffs, but he's been very good at that, and it's nice seeing a support-focused mercenary kind of having success at doing that role. Moving on, we have Maestra. So Maestra, really, really cool design, and I think this is a character we're going to be seeing quite a bit of because it's just powerful. If you saw the kind of reviews we did shortly after release, you will know I was very high on Hook Tusk, mainly because I really think being able to swap the role of an opponent was very good. And I haven't tested Hook Tusk enough to really, I think, use that character to the best of their ability. But so far, in my testing with both of those characters, her and Maestra, I think just gaining role advantage is just so much better than swapping a role, because it's guaranteeing you that crit every time, and that is really, really powerful. The other thing that is very strong about this is positioning actually matters for this mercenary. And if you have 4 units, or like 3 mercs and a summon or whatever, and your opponent only has 3, you end up hitting both things across from you, so the left and the right, much like Eudora's cannons and other things like that interact. So that's pretty crazy because the combo with the roll advantage happens on both hits. So if you have a blue there and then a green there, you'll swap to a green and then you'll swap to a red. And so you get crits in both times, and that's really insane, especially when you factor in you're also gaining attack before you do that. So it's been really, really nuts. The place we've been seeing this show up the most has been in Trigor comps, unsurprisingly, as you can do some crazy stuff, especially with units like Eudora, as with Eudora, you get that summon to give you the 4 units, so you have better positioning, and then Eudora is also a fast attacker at 4 speed, so you can combo with the Mask of Mimicry here, and get Maestra to swap in off the bench on turn 1 after Eudora already went in, did her damage. You get the damage from her taking damage and proccing Trigor, and then you get Maestra to come in and deal crit damage, proc Trigor, and it's just pretty disgusting. It's really, really powerful. I do think there could be benefit to her other equipments as well, but so far the Mask of Mimicry has definitely been the one that has been the most successful for me and for others I've seen on ladder. Mask of Rage, I think, does also have some potential as like kind of an anti-summon thing. The only thing worth mentioning about this, though, is there is currently a bug, so it can actually swap with your own summon. So do be careful about that, because sometimes you might not want that to end up happening. But hopefully that'll get fixed soon. But yeah, positioning matters a lot for this merc, especially for ability 1, but a lot of the times you really are just trying to cheat her out with a fast unit with Mask of Mimicry to get those critical hits in on turn 1. I do think Sudden Betrayal actually has a lot of utility, though, given how many comps have been kind of making big units. We kind of mentioned that with Elise, that I think they're going to be a lot more big stats kind of comps, and making an enemy deal its attack damage to its neighbors is actually very strong right now, I think. I mean, we've even seen that because the Sylvanas skill 3 has been seeing a ton more usage to kind of take advantage of the fact that often opponents are buffing up all their bench units to pretty big stats. So her whole kit's really good. You just have to be a little mindful about the positioning, as this is a mercenary where positioning matters a lot. But yeah, really like the design of Maestra, and I think we're going to see quite a lot of her as the meta ends up developing. And then last but not least, we have Queen Ashara. So this is the one I haven't been able to personally test out as much as I would like to, and she is going to be a little bit build dependent, right? She is obviously very focused on the Naga synergy and all that kind of stuff, but I have seen her in other comps too, so I think there's going to be a few different builds that can support her, but she just seems very, very strong, and I really like the way she kind of has benefit for going slower. I think it's a really interesting mechanic and something I hope we see more of. But so far, the extra stats from having Nagas or your opponent having Nagas has seemed to be the weakest equipment. The ones I've been seeing people have more success with, most of them have actually been running the kind of passive pseudo death rattle, where when she dies, you steal 6 health from all characters and return to life. It's pretty decent. The only thing you have to be weary about is that can impact your own characters. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that, because sometimes that 6 health can actually matter a lot. So you do have to be careful with planning that out, but it is a very powerful ability. And then just the basically the Shadow Life Root Staff. Life Root Staff has been very good on Malfurion for a very long time, and there's now more shadow support than ever before. So it kind of makes sense that that will also be one of her kind of standout abilities. I haven't really seen her too much outside of some Naga comps, though I did see a few people experimenting with her in a Frost comp that seemed to do all right. Worth noting, though, her Mage Paramount skill is actually bugged right now. It's actually bugged in a way that makes her a bit stronger, which is kind of funny compared to some of the other bugs that have made characters weaker. But it's supposed to just give the spell resist to that spell school to the queen, but currently it is giving it to all of your characters, which, as you can imagine, is a lot more powerful. So that is one thing where that's probably going to change, as I believe that has been confirmed to be a bug. But even without that, just gaining flat spell damage, making her a bit harder to kill, all her abilities are just good. And I think this is one of those characters where the only reason we haven't seen more of her just yet is because she is a very build-dependent character. Whether that build is pure Nagas or Nagas with kind of a mix with Arcane or a mix with Frost. So it takes more time to get those builds up than some of the other builds we've seen, like Pirates or the build with Cho, where you only really need 1 or 2 new mercenaries. I think a lot of the Queen Ashara builds are going to need a bit more of the new mercenaries. So I think that's why we haven't seen quite as much of her just yet, but I think that is going to change as people have a little bit more time to basically level their characters and get them ready for PvP. But those are the 5 that really have stood out to me so far in the pretty short time we've had with PvP so far in the new patch. Like I mentioned at the start, I do think maybe some other characters would be in here if we didn't have to deal with bugs, specifically Maev or maybe Bane. Luckily, Bane is fixed now, so maybe we'll see more of him soon. But really can't wait for that Maev fix because I really want to use her, as she's a really cool character and probably would have made the cut if not for the bug issue. I know we are pretty caster heavy, but it kind of makes sense given that, you know, because of Trigor and some other units like Localar, we really kind of needed more powerful casters, and I think that's definitely what we got this time around. So I've been enjoying it so far. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the meta develops, and hopefully we can get those bug fixes that are needed soon. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Definitely let me know in the comments below which of the new mercenaries you've been liking the most so far. Is there one you think should have made this list that didn't? And let me know if you'd like to see something like this for PvE, because I could definitely do something like that once I have had a little bit more time to get a feel for all the characters and how they perform in PvE. But that is going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.